When you look at some of the best-selling mangas of 2021, you might look at series such as Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, My Hero Academia, and Tokyo Revengers. As a new manga creator, becoming a popular mangaka like these series might seem like an impossible feat on the surface. However, all these best-selling series become popular for a reason, and in today's video I want to talk about these techniques and how you can apply these techniques to your mangas in 2021 so you can set yourself up for success and have a higher chance of becoming a successful series in the manga world. My first tip is find a story that no one else is talking about. Now, of course, this is easier said than done. However, there are some certain stories out there that don't usually get covered, and by talking about these types of topics, you can have a better chance of being noticed. Now, the way I recommend you do this is that you look at the popular series out there and think about what types of stories do they not talk about. So when you're watching those popular series like Demon Slayer, for example, or Jujutsu Kaisen, while you might enjoy the storyline there might be other stories there that you might think, I wish they talked more about this, or I wish they covered this topic. And so you can apply those types of stories to your own books. When you think about the stories that you don't typically get seen a lot, and you feel like you as a reader or someone watching the anime might like to see more of, that means that there's likely a lot of other people who would be interested in seeing that too. That's why I recommend you do this technique with popular series and you think about what did the author not cover in this part, and maybe I could apply that type of story to my own mangas. My second tip is consider what your reader wants when they pick up your book. Whether your manga is a webcomic or if you are selling it as a self-published book or you're trying to get it published, you need to think about what you are giving your reader because your reader is taking the time to enjoy your book. So I think the best way to thank them for purchasing your book or just simply reading your book is to give them a story that you feel is fulfilling and a story that you feel the audience would enjoy, because I feel like as a creator, that is the best gift you can give to your audience. It's when you give them a story that is fulfilling, something that is satisfying to read. My third tip is decide on a page turner. Consider what you can add to your book that will make your readers keep turning the page to see what will happen next. The best series out there, the ones that become bestsellers, are the ones that people literally can't put down. They want to keep turning the pages to see what will happen next. And so with your own manga, you need to think about what your page turner will be. And the best way to do this is to add something in the introduction that is unexpected or leaves your audience with questions. And when it comes time to answer those questions, you should only answer those questions by the end of your book. Naturally, a lot of best-selling books out there are page turners because the readers pick up the book and they want to keep reading more to see what will happen. And so you need to apply those techniques to your own books. When you're creating your manga, thinking about what can I add in this page or this chapter that will leave the audience with questions that can only be answered by further reading the book. And that's a good way to know that your book will be more successful. And so that forces your audience to read more to see what will happen. My fourth tip is write a book that connects to a large audience. One common aspect that a lot of best-selling books have in the manga world or in the novel world is the fact that these books usually are able to connect with a lot of people. A lot of people who read the book are able to feel like they can connect with the book and they can relate to the situations and scenes in the book. Now, a good way to do this is to think about scenes or events that your characters might experience throughout the book that your audience might have experienced also. These could be events such as heartbreak or maybe bullying, or moments where they find a friend and they can connect to another character in your book, moments when they help each other. So think about moments that you feel your audience might have experienced at some point in their lives and think about how you could add those moments to your book, because that helps your audience to connect to it on a larger scale. And so that's a good way to build a connection with your audience, is when you add moments that your audience may have experienced in their own lives, and your audience can see a character going through a similar experience and think about, I had to go through a moment like that too. And you can show how your characters might go through those moments and become stronger after experiencing difficult or positive moments. My fifth tip is create a world that your audience will fall in love with. A good way to set your book up for success is to create a world that your audience will want to read about. A world that your audience will really want to sink into and feel like they are a part of. I feel like in part this is one of the reasons why the Harry Potter series became so successful, because the world and the lore in the story is so well developed and a lot of people really want to become a part of that magical world. So when you're creating your manga, think about what kind of world you could create the audience can feel a connection with, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a positive or a magical world like in Harry Potter. It just needs to be a world that is interesting to read about and experience. Be even a post-apocalyptic type of world could be made interesting if you add a lot of interesting locations, a lot of interesting places, and a lot of interesting characters for your audience to discover. And when your audience feels enough of a connection with that world, it's going to be more likely that your audience will keep wanting to read more, even if it's just to see more of the world you have created. My sixth tip is develop a main story obstacle that affects the world as a whole. So now that you've spent some time developing a really amazing world that your audience will really want to fall in love with, it's now time to create an obstacle or a problem that might threaten the world you have created. And so that's a good way to make your audience keep reading more. It's another page turner because your audience will want to make sure that nothing bad happens to the world you have created, whether it be the world itself or the characters within that world or even your characters' goals and problems. So create a problem that affects the story as a whole, and if that problem is not resolved, it will change the way your characters live their lives. My seventh tip is give every character their own internal conflict and external conflict. The internal and external conflicts are a good way to develop your characters further, but what are internal and external conflicts? Well, the external conflict is the problems that happen outside of your characters that stop them from being able to achieve the things they want. And this might be difficult characters stopping them, an actual problem that is getting in their way, or it could be something simple like an argument or a smaller conflict that is just stopping them from being able to do the things that they want. An internal conflict is the problems your characters face within themselves. So this might be your character's self-doubt or their fears or their struggles that they have to go through in themselves. For example, your character might want to be a public speaker, but they are really scared of getting on the stage and they're really worried that they're going to mess up, and that's an internal conflict. However, an external conflict in that situation is that maybe the last time they went up on stage, someone said something nasty to them and now they're really worried, and that's an external conflict. That also maybe caused their internal conflict as well. So in order to make your characters more interesting and realistic, giving every character in your book an internal and external conflict is a good way to develop them further as characters, but also be aware that those internal and external conflicts can change over the course of the story as they grow and develop into different characters. My eighth tip is market your book to appeal to your target audience. So this goes for the logo, the title, the cover, the blurb, and anything that is associated with the marketing of your book, because this is what your audience will first see when they are experiencing your book. And while people say do not judge a book by its cover, this actually does tend to go a lot of the time for a lot of the best-selling books out there. People will judge a book by its cover. And so if you want to set up your book for success and have the highest chance of making your manga into a potential bestseller, your best chance is to have a really good cover, a really good title, and just make your book really appeal to your target audience at a first glance. Because if that appeals to your target audience, they might think, hey, that looks like a book that I would want to read. And that's exactly the type of response that you want when someone is looking at your book at a first glance. Now, the way you design your book will be different depending on what type of target audience you have and what type of genre you are selling your book in. For example, in a lot of shonen manga, you'll notice that there might be an action scene shown on the cover, and the logo design might also look very action-based. Whereas when it comes to a shoujo manga, there might be something more romantic or cute and fun on the cover, and the color design might be more pastel or more brighter and lighter colors. So really think about when you're designing the main cover of your book and writing the description, who are you targeting your book towards? Because those are the people who will be most likely to be interested in your book. And when you target your book towards that audience just from the way you market it, it's going to be a lot easier for your readers to be able to find your book and to know that they will be interested in the type of story you're telling. And finally, my ninth tip is have the ending in mind before you start. Highly recommend that when you're creating a book and you want to set up your book for success, it's important to keep the ending in mind as you're writing the beginning, because then you can best set up your book towards the end. It would be worse if you create a book and it becomes really successful, but you have no idea how to end it. By considering the ending as well as the beginning, you will already know how your book is going to end, so you can best tailor your book as you go through it to suit the ending, and you know exactly how you're going to end it to make your book really, really good all the way through. So thank you so much for watching my video today, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know in the comment section down below. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!